we're gonna start on the coloring part of our birds real fast. And you can see I'm just kind of wiping away some of my little eraser shavings because I've just erased out a bunch of pencil lines. You are welcome to use on these colored pencils. You can use crayons, you can use your paints, you can use all of the above. It's completely up to you. But you want to work slowly. You want to really be careful and do your best coloring. For example, let's see, I might do a little bit of color blending. I was about to start with my colored pencils, but I think I might actually go with some crayon and then do a kind of a crayon resist technique. You can see, I'm actually working from this bird right here. Your colors of your bird do not need to be like your photo. So let me say that again. Your colors that you use for your final bird do not need to be just like your photo. However, if you'd like to, I think it does look nice if you choose to do that as well. So I started with a little bit of that yellow in there, and I'm going to get that orange in there too. Right here, I'm going to go ahead and kind of blend just a little bit with that yellow crayon. And it's working a little bit. It's not working as well as I want it to, but that's okay. Use that orange right up here. I'm coloring with that crayon, so I'm really, really pressing down and doing my best coloring. I'm going to go ahead and stop right there. I'm going to switch over to my paint brushes. Now what I'm showing you guys is just one of any number of ways, of endless ways that you can approach this project and the coloring on this project. So you notice right here as I'm painting that black over there, I'm actually using a good amount of water in that black paint, so it's kind of turning out gray. Now you can always make it darker, but you can't always get it back light again. So even though my wing on my bird is a lot darker, I'm going to add a little bit more. So you can see I can make that darker, but if I get it too dark, it's hard to make it lighter again. So go slowly and really, really think about this. On the head, I could color it in with just pencil if I wanted to, make it kind of a grayish, or I could paint in with my paintbrush. And I'm using a bigger paintbrush right here. I might actually switch over and I'm going to use a little bit smaller paintbrush. You'll have smaller paintbrushes you can use. I've got this little guy right here. You'll also have access to those long paintbrushes. As long as you treat those tips of the paintbrush really well, you can use those. You can see I'm painting with just the tippy tip of that paintbrush. And I'm going very, very slowly and filling that in. Again, I can always go darker later on, but I can't lighten it up very easily if I get it too dark. Now that beak, I'm looking at the beak carefully and I'm seeing some kind of white highlights in that. Now I could probably find a crayon to go over and do white highlights at the very end, but I'm also going to go ahead when I'm painting this and leave some white areas. I'm going to make this very, very light. So you can see a difference between the beak and the head. Notice I did some little lines. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to try to lift this up carefully. But I did some little lines and some patterns all through here. You can tell I'm filming this at the end of the day.
At this time, please release your ASP students and kindergarten bus riders. ASP students and kindergarten bus riders. Thank you.
Look, you got to hear the afternoon announcements during the middle of the day. Okay, so I'm just going to fill this in. And I'm going back to my small paintbrush now. Whoop. Filling these in. actually grab my white crayon right here, and I'm going to color in some of these little markings right here. This is a great idea. If you have parts that you really, really want to keep white, go ahead and grab a crayon and do a crayon resist. You can see some of these stripes in here. I should have done this before I even started painting down here, but I controlled that paint pretty well, so I don't have any spots where I really made a goof up or anything like that. But again, the parts that I really, really want to keep white, I'm going ahead and getting with that crayon. And then I can go ahead and paint the other areas around it. So I've filled in all those little markings with the crayons. Now, in order to make sure the crayon resist works, plenty of water. Whoop. And you can see where I put that white crayon is pushing that paint off and saying, "Get off of me." And that is our crayon resist. Now, of course, one thing to be mindful, when wet paint touches wet paint next to it, the colors blend and run together. So if I'm going to paint this belly of the bird with the orange, I want to make sure...
217 now, please release first, second, fifth graders to the buses. First, second, fifth graders to the buses.
More afternoon announcements. I want to make sure that I don't touch that really, really wet black paint with the orange paint, or else it's going to blend and bleed and run all together. Unless, of course, you want that to happen. Maybe you do want that to happen. If you wanted to blend those, so you can see it's starting to happen right there where that black is kind of creeping into that orange. And actually, I'm okay with that because there's some shadows in there. I think that's going to look pretty cool. And going back to the tail, I think I'm going to go back to my skinny paintbrush. Now I'm actually touching the black paint to the orange, so in here it's going to bleed and blend together just a little bit. And I'm actually okay with that. Again, if you don't want that to happen, make sure you keep your wet parts separate, or let one part dry before you get near it with the other section. Okay, let's see, leggies right there, leggies right there. I might do a slight little kind of blackish outline in there. Now this next part, the legs are so small, I could get a regular pencil to do this, or I could use a color pencil. So you can see I'm jumping around with all different materials. At this point I have used the crayons, I've used the color pencils, I've used the paint. So you're welcome to use all of that.
It's 219 at this time, your third and fourth grade bus students.
I'm going to go ahead and end this video right here.